What's way more dangerous than most people think? Hypothermia, a threatening and often underestimated threat, can be harmful even when temperatures are in the 50s Fahrenheit, around 13 degrees Celsius. If your clothes get soaked and you're unable to dry out and warm up, these seemingly mild temperatures can become life threatening. This is how many day hikers, unprepared for the unexpected, unfortunately end. They set out for what they think will be a short hike, but something goes wrong, they get lost, injured, or delayed. The weather takes a turn, they can't find shelter, and they get wet. Before they know it, they're battling the relentless cold, and without the ability to get warm, they eventually succumb to what is clinically referred to as quote unquote exposure. My scoutmaster was determined that none of us would ever face such a fate without being prepared. He believed that the best way to teach us the importance of planning and preparedness was through experience, even if it was a tough lesson. One memorable day, he had us cross a stream, knowing full well that while our packs would stay dry as we carried them over our heads, we would get soaked in the cool water. It was about 55 degrees Fahrenheit that day, not really cold by most standards, and initially it felt refreshing. But the moment we reached the other side, reality struck. Despite the moderate temperature, the cold set in at a bad speed, especially with no cover from the wind. Within minutes, we were shivering. Our hands, once capable of starting a fire, became clumsy and nearly useless as the cold took its toll. The shivering was so severe that it became incapacitating, rendering us unable to perform even the simplest tasks. That day, we learned some of the most critical lessons about survival. Our scoutmaster installed into us the importance of keeping our clothes dry. He showed us the necessity of having a fire ready to go so that we could warm up quickly if needed. He emphasized the importance of putting our dry clothes back on immediately after crossing and then starting a fire to warm up and dry out before even thinking about anything else. And of course, shelter needed to be our next priority to protect ourselves from the elements. These were the lessons, ones that chilled us, but those lessons stuck with us even 30 years later. The experience of that day, the cold, the shivering, the helplessness, served as a powerful reminder that nature is not a joke and that preparation, planning, and respect for the elements are not just important, they're essential for survival. That's right, hypothermia is just a way of saying, remember that time you thought a quick hike was a good idea? Spoiler alert, it wasn't. Story 2. Rescuing a person under the water is a serious and often unsafe endeavor. When someone is underwater, they're in a state of complete fear, driven by an overwhelming instinct to reach the surface and get air. And in their desperate struggle, they can become frantic and irrational with a single-minded focus on survival. This fear can lead them to climb on top of anything or anyone around them in an attempt to stay afloat. Because of this, rescuing a person is not something to be taken lightly. If you're not a strong swimmer or have not received training in water rescues, it is important that you do not attempt to rescue someone yourself. Your safety must be the top priority in these situations. Instead, immediately call emergency services and do what you can to assist from a safe distance. One effective method is to extend something for the person to grab onto, such as a pool noodle, a branch, or a pole. If possible, throw something buoyant like a life jacket, a kickboard, or even a cooler lid for them to hold onto until help arrives. For those who aren't trained in in-water rescue, it's important to remember that the best rescue is one that doesn't require you to enter the water unless necessary. The safety guidelines for rescuing someone in the water emphasize the order of operations: call, reach, extend, throw, row, and finally swim. These steps are designed to minimize harm to the rescuer while still providing the best chance of saving the person. Before you even consider getting into the water, always assess the conditions thoroughly. If the water is murky, the current is strong, or there are too many threats like logs or rocks, it's vital to reconsider the rescue. It may sound harsh, but it's better to prioritize your safety and leave the rescue to trained professionals rather than putting in your own life. Rescue teams would much rather focus on saving one person. If after careful consideration you decide to enter the water, always bring something that floats with you. This can be handed to the drowning person to prevent them from grabbing onto you, which could put both of you in danger. Rescuing a person under the water is like trying to save a cat from a bathtub. Lots of splashing, a bit of fear, and they might end up wondering who's really in danger here. Story 3. The ocean is a vast and dynamic environment, offering both opportunities for swimming, surfing, and other recreational activities, as well as presenting serious challenges for boating. It's important to understand that the ocean is 100% not just a big swimming pool or a tranquil lake. Once you step off the sand or dock, you find yourself in a completely different environment where the rules of human perception and reasoning no longer apply. The ocean operates on its own terms, indifferent to our expectations and at times even to our very mortality. I'm currently teaching a good friend how to sail, and while his enthusiasm is admirable, I can't help but notice his naivety when it comes to the realities of sailing long distances in a very small boat. It's essential to recognize that sailing requires respect for the unpredictable nature of the sea. When I scolded him, saying, "You haven't been scared enough yet," I was speaking from a wealth of experience. The reason I maintain a conservative approach in and around the ocean is that I've developed a healthy, totally reasonable fear of its potential dangers over the course of my life. Anyone who claims they aren't a little afraid of the ocean likely hasn't spent enough time observing its power and unpredictability. As someone who has spent years as a captain, a lifelong surfer, and a recreational sailor, I can attest to the fact that the ocean is both beautiful and treacherous. It can change in an instant, transforming from a serene expanse into a tumultuous force that can overwhelm even the most experienced sailors. It's important to be prepared for anything, as situations you've never imagined can arise unexpectedly even during an outing. If you're planning to go out on a boat, ensure that you are equipped. At a minimum, have a well-stocked first aid kit and a working knowledge of how to call for help using a VHF radio. These basic safety measures can make all the difference in ensuring that your time on the water remains enjoyable rather than turning into a struggle for survival. Respect the ocean's power, learn from those who have experienced its unpredictable nature, and always prioritize safety to fully appreciate the beauty it offers. And he thought his friend's enthusiasm was adorable, like a puppy thinking it could take on a great white shark. Story 4. Not going to the doctor when something is wrong is a mindset that needs to change. It's important to understand that choosing not to seek immediate attention doesn't make you macho or any more of a man. In reality, it often reflects poor judgment and a disregard for your own health. If you live in America and don't have insurance, I'm not directing this at you. There are plenty of individuals who lack access to medical care for valid reasons, but we all know those people who refuse to visit a doctor. You've heard their dismissive remarks, "I'm not going to the doctor, I'm fine." I knew a guy who hadn't been to the doctor in 30 years. Yes, 30 years. He wore his avoidance like a badge of honor, always bragging about how he never got sick and how he didn't need any doctor poking and prodding at him. He thought he was invincible, but reality caught up with him in a harsh way. One day, he suddenly started losing a significant amount of weight for no apparent reason over the span of just a month. Alarm bells should have been ringing, but it took that change for him to finally make an appointment with a doctor. When he finally went in, the news was devastating. He had so much illness throughout his body that he was essentially a walking miracle. The doctors gave him a diagnosis of just 4 months to live. Shockingly, he chose to decline the treatment, believing he could do it on his own. Unfortunately, he passed away because he waited too long to address his health concerns. This serves as a reminder: go to the doctor when something feels off. Your best chance against ailment and many other conditions is early finding. The same principle applies to a wide range of health concerns. If you put off seeing a doctor and wait too long, it might be too late to do anything at all. Don't let pride or ignorance stand in the way of your health. Taking charge of your well-being means recognizing when something is wrong and seeking help. Your health is too important to gamble with, so don't make the same mistake many others have made. Prioritize regular checkups, listen to your body, and seek advice when you need it. Story 5. Frying food can be a thrilling culinary experience, but it also comes with its own set of threats that should not be underestimated. Recently, a friend came over to hang out, and my roommates and I decided to make dinner together. We prepared buffalo chicken and, for my vegetarian preference, buffalo cauliflower. The process was straightforward and enjoyable. We simply dropped the chicken and cauliflower into large pots of hot oil. The combination of sizzling sounds and delicious aromas filled the kitchen, making it a fun cooking adventure. After our feast, our friend who works at a restaurant shared her experience with the head chef there. She excitedly recounted how much fun we had cooking together. However, his reaction was far from enthusiastic. He lost his temper upon hearing that we were frying food without the proper equipment, such as a thermometer and a deep fryer or vat. He emphasized that frying food without the right tools is not safe, warning us that we could easily set the house on fire. When our friend relayed this startling news to us, my roommates and I exchanged glances and kind of shrugged our shoulders. We understood the danger but didn't think much of it. Since that initial frying session, we've stepped into more precarious food preparation practices, making fried ice cream, tostones, yuca fritas, and sweet potato fries all in the same makeshift setup. So far, the house hasn't burned down, but we realize that this luck could run out at any moment. While it's true that we've enjoyed some delicious homemade fried dishes, we've come to acknowledge that our cooking methods are careless. We're playing with fire, quite literally, and even though we might not have encountered a disaster yet, the potential for one is always lurking. The truth is, frying food without the proper equipment isn't just a matter of convenience. It's a safety concern that we need to take earnestly. It's essential to approach frying with respect for the process and the necessary precautions, because it only takes one misstep for a fun cooking experience to turn into a threatening situation. Frying food without the proper equipment is like playing with fire, like literally. Who knew our culinary adventure would double as an audition for a cooking show titled Survivor Kitchen Edition? But I gotta admit with you guys, I don't have the proper tools either, and I'm betting you don't. Let me know in the comments if you do. Story 6. Forgetfulness in general can be a concern. You might think that even with lapses or somewhat unreliable memory, you're managing just fine after all. It's often just small things that slip your mind, right? You can always count on someone to remind you of those little details. That's how you start to become careless. Over time, the potential for forgetfulness to become a serious problem drifts into the background, becoming just another fleeting thought that never crosses your mind again. But here's the truth. Forgetfulness is anything but picky. It doesn't discriminate between what seems petty and what is truly important. Losing seemingly worthless bits of information might not raise any alarms at first, so the problem remains quietly beneath the surface, unacknowledged and unchecked. The real danger arises when you forget someone or something you cannot afford to lose. By the time you realize the significance of what's gone, it's often too late. The damage has been done and the outcome can be dire. Suddenly, the situation feels overwhelming. Once that realization struck, you may find yourself grappling with the aftermath, desperately trying to piece together what you've lost. And here's the kicker. Good luck ever trusting your own memory again. Each lapse becomes a reminder of what can slip away in an instant, leaving you in a constant state of anxiety about what you might forget next. The one simple act of recalling a name, a date, or an important conversation morphs into a task, one that can make you even second-guess the smallest details of your life. As forgetfulness takes its toll, you may become more isolated, wary of situations where your memory might fail you. Friends and family might grow frustrated, and you may withdraw from social interactions, fearing that your lapses will lead to embarrassment or worse. The struggle with lost memories becomes a daily battle where every missed detail can feel like a chink in the armor of your identity. In this world of fleeting recollections, it's important to seek ways to enhance your memory and safeguard the moments that matter most. Whether through mindfulness, creating routines, or employing memory aids, the effort can help you reclaim a sense of control over your thoughts and experiences. After all, in a life where memories shape who we are, losing even a small piece can feel like losing a part of ourselves. Story 7. Australia is a beautiful country filled with breathtaking landscapes and unique wildlife, but it's also home to a plethora of dangers that can make your visit or your life here a bit more challenging than in other parts of the world. While other countries may have similar threats, the dangers here are on another level, which is why the government drills safety into us from the moment we're born. So, if you find yourself down under, here's what you need to know to avoid becoming another statistic. We've got some of the most dangerous snakes in the world roaming around. Brown snakes are especially notorious for their potency. In summer, they can show up almost anywhere, be it your backyard, a park, or while you're hiking. On the other hand, the red-bellied black snake is usually harmless. They tend to skedaddle away at the first sign of human presence. Remember though, just because one snake might be a coward doesn't mean the others are. When it comes to aquatic life, jellyfish take the cake for being some of the most venomous creatures around. Unlike snakes, these stingings have no brains, meaning they don't feel remorse for the havoc they wreak. Australia is home to the world's most lethal jellyfish, the box jellyfish, specifically the Irukandji jellyfish. These tiny creatures are so small that their bell measures only about 30 millimeters in height. That's roughly 1.18 inches for my American mates. Don't let their size fool you. A sting from one of these can cause pain. Spiders are another thing you'll want to keep an eye out for, especially if you're like me and have a fear of these crawlies. While they haven't directly harmed anyone since the 1970s, that doesn't mean they're not threatening. The funnel web and redback spiders are among the most venomous, and they can wreck your day faster than you can say, "Get it off of me!" One ridiculous event involved an episode of Peppa Pig being banned in Australia because it encouraged kids not to fear spiders. Just remember, when in doubt, just scream and run. Now let's talk about the huntsman spider. This isn't dangerous, but it's definitely the scariest spider you can encounter. It can grow to the size of your hand and is known for its ability to appear out of anywhere and out of nowhere. Unlike other spiders that spin webs, huntsmen are hunters. They run around and catch their prey. The real danger lies in the fact that they can mess up in your car when you least expect it. You're driving along, minding your own business, and suddenly there's a spider on your dashboard. If you're on the waves, you better be aware of currents. These powerful currents can drag you out to sea faster than you can swim back to shore. If you find yourself caught in one, remember to swim parallel to the shore to escape its grip. It's not just about survival, it's about using your wits and understanding the water. Australia has the highest rates of skin ailment in the world, thanks in large part to the hole in the ozone layer directly above us. The sun can be harsh, so the mantra is slip, slop, slap. Slip on a shirt, slop on some sunscreen, and slap on a hat. Don't underestimate the damage the sun can do. Every couple of years, at least half of the east coast of Australia goes up in flames. Our fire departments hammer home the importance of safety in fireproofing homes because, when it comes to bushfires, you can never be too prepared. Fun fact, we share a lot in common with California when it comes to scorching down every few years. Eucalyptus trees, which we sold to America in the 1860s during the gold rush, are part of the problem. They take 100 years to mature, and during that time, they spread like wildfire, literally. These trees produce eucalyptus oil, which makes them burn. Even after a fire, they often regrow quickly, perpetuating the cycle of devastation. It's not just the animals out to get you. The environment itself can be a real menace. From venomous wildlife to raging bushfires, Mother Nature can be unforgiving. So the next time you think about venturing into nature or taking a dip in the ocean, remember, it's a beautiful place, but it's also filled with hidden dangers. Stay alert, stay safe, and always respect the natural world around you. Okay. Always respect the natural world around you. So if I see a spider the size of my hand while I'm driving down the highway, what do? Do I not smack it? Because that's freaky. Story 8. Navigating near dams is not just threatening, it can be downright lethal. Whether you're in a boat, tubing, or body surfing, going over a dam poses serious threats. Even seemingly harmless, low 3-foot dams can lead to life-threatening situations. In the United States, many dams have been constructed straight across rivers, creating unique and perilous water dynamics. When water flows over a dam, it cascades down and is immediately forced to the bottom of the riverbed. This sudden drop in water level creates a hole where there should be a continuous flow of water near the surface. As a result, the water downstream is drawn back upstream toward the dam in a powerful cycle. If you happen to go over a dam, the outcome can be catastrophic. You may initially submerge to the bottom, only to surface briefly before being yanked back toward the dam's edge by the rushing current. This endless cycle can happen even if you're in a sealed kayak or wearing a personal flotation device, a PFD. The force of the water is stronger than most people realize, and the potential for danger is immense. In such scenarios, your best chance of survival is to curl into a ball and try to get as low in the water as possible. By minimizing your profile, there's a chance you might be able to float beneath the surface and escape. Additionally, if you're playing below a dam, it is important to understand that water will be rushing back upstream from downstream areas. This means you can find yourself caught in the same treacherous cycle of water that flows over the dam. Story 9. Having a false penicillin allergy on your med profile can lead to serious implications. If you're unsure whether you have an allergy, please take the time to ask your provider for clarification. Although about 10% of people report a penicillin allergy, less than 1% of these individuals actually have a true allergy. This discrepancy can significantly affect your treatment options. When you report a penicillin allergy, it restricts your access to a vital class of antibiotics that are highly effective in treating infections. Instead of prescribing penicillin or its derivatives, health providers are often forced to resort to alternative antibiotics, which may not be as effective. These alternatives can sometimes be broader spectrum antibiotics, which means they eliminate a wider range of bacteria. While this may seem beneficial, it can lead to several unintended outcomes. The use of unnecessarily powerful antibiotics can result in increased rates of antibiotic-induced frequent bowel movements, as well as a higher incidence of Clostridium difficile infections, which can be life-threatening. These antibiotics can also contribute to the growing problem of antibiotic resistance, where bacteria evolved to withstand the effects of medicine that were once effective against them. This not only puts individual patients in potential concerns, but also poses a broader public health threat. Ultimately, the use of improper antibiotics can lead to higher overall mortality rates due to inadequate infection control. If you're uncertain about your allergy status, please consult your healthcare provider. They can provide you with information and resources to help clarify your situation. You can also look up common allergy symptoms online, such as rashes or throat swelling, to understand what to look for. Additionally, there are tests available that can determine if you have a true penicillin allergy. Your health is paramount, and ensuring you receive the most effective treatment is important. Don't hesitate to seek answers regarding your med history, as doing so can lead to better health outcomes and a more effective treatment plan. Now, if you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 10. I fell and now my useless ankle is bolted together. It's a constant reminder of that day, a day that changed everything. I was laid up and unable to walk for a whole year, and now I'm drowning in a six-figure medical debt because I thought I didn't need insurance. The pain is relentless. It hurts all day, every day. I can't work a real blue-collar job anymore. Instead, I operate heavy equipment so I can mostly stay off my feet, but that comes with its own set of challenges. I can't take any pain pills, and even the thought of taking one hitter a few times a week to unwind is off the table. I became crippled and developed a noticeable limp at just 25 years old. Now, a decade later, I'm only just starting to catch up on my credit and payments after the fallout from that accident. Late fees and penalties add up quickly when you stop working and paying for an entire year. We used to joke about the safety harnesses we had to wear at work. The only thing this harness will save is your job, we'd say, laughing it off. But people often forget that there's always a chance you could fall and get hurt, that you might never be the same again. In hindsight, I realized that harness could have saved me a lot more than just my job. It could have preserved my sanity. Back then, I thought I was invincible. I wasn't even overweight at the time, just landed wrong. That single misstep taught me a harsh lesson. You can only get one life and one body. I'm not even crippled that badly. I can walk for a couple of hours without a noticeable limp if I really push myself. Every time I see someone working at heights without proper protection, I can't help but feel a mix of anger and sorrow. I want to shout at them, "Don't be reckless, protect yourself." Because you never know when a moment of carelessness can lead to a lifetime of struggle. Don't let your story end up like mine. Story 11. Holding your breath underwater can be perilous, especially if you hyperventilate beforehand. In a freediving course I took, I learned that people lack a direct mechanism to signal low oxygen levels. Instead, the need to breathe is caused by rising carbon dioxide levels. When you hyperventilate, breathing quickly and forcefully before diving, you lower your CO2 levels, which can create a false sense of comfort while holding your breath. This significantly increases the danger of blacking out underwater without warning. If there's no one around you to pull out, the situation can be serious. In freediving, you learn to breathe in and out at different rates, typically inhaling for 3 seconds and exhaling for 6. This technique helps you become more aware of the pain associated with the need to breathe, allowing you to recognize your limits. Additionally, after some time, you may start to experience diaphragm convulsions, which serve as another indicator of your physical condition. It's important to note that even experienced freedivers have harmed themselves while practicing alone in a pool. Therefore, never train for breath holding underwater by yourself. Practicing in bed is safer because your body will naturally resume breathing if you black out. For the record, my personal best was 4 minutes and 35 seconds, achieved only once. Story 12. Water. It may seem harmless at first glance, but it doesn't take much for this seemingly benign substance to unleash tremendous force, especially when it's falling. People often envision themselves standing beneath a cascading waterfall, relishing the soothing sensation of the water pouring over them, much like the idyllic scenes portrayed in shampoo commercials. However, the reality is different. That powerful torrent of water could catch you off guard. The sheer weight and force of the water falling even from a modest height can be astonishing. It can create a powerful impact. The energy contained in that falling water is a force to be reckoned with, and it commands respect. Then there's electricity. This element can be particularly deceptive due to its lack of tangible size and the way its strength can increase without any visible indicators. A small cup of water spilling on you isn't frightening in the least, it's a mere inconvenience. However, envision a massive water tower filled to the brim teetering precariously above you. That's a different story entirely. The threat level is immediately clear. In contrast, electricity provides no such visual cues to gauge its danger. There are no signs that hint at its potency or lethality just by looking. You cannot ascertain if a wire or device is holding a charge, nor can you judge the size of that charge by eye alone. Taking capacitance devices, for example, they appear identical whether charged or discharged. The only way to determine if a capacitor holds a charge is to attempt to discharge it, a threatening endeavor that could lead to serious injury. The lack of visible markers makes electricity incredibly insidious. It's a silent and unseen force. This unpredictability is what makes it so perilous. So, the takeaway is clear when it comes to water and electricity: respect their power, understand the potential threats they pose, and never underestimate the forces at play. Water may seem like a gentle companion and electricity like an invisible friend. Don't mess with electricity and approach water with caution. It's a powerful force that can change your life in the blink of an eye. Story 13. I work in HVAC and plumbing design, and there are serious threats associated with poor practices. Take bird droppings, for example. They may seem messy, but they can harm you. An incident occurred where birds nesting near an intake tainted the ventilation system, leading to a serious infection. Similarly, improperly plumbed hot water systems can foster Legionella bacteria, posing serious health threats. While rare, such incidents are preventable through proper plumbing codes, but poor installation can lead to disaster. Radiators also present dangers, particularly for the elderly or disabled. I've learned that individuals can fall against radiators. Although regulations require shielding in hospitals and care homes, many older buildings haven't been updated. Radiator leaks can be lethal. In steam systems, a broken pipe can create threatening steam conditions, as seen in a recent incident in Russia. While most heating here is water-based, leaks can still lead to hazardous situations. Backflow pollution is another concern. Leaving a hose in an outdoor pool can create a stagnant breeding ground for bacteria, which can create bacteria in the drinking supply. Strict regulations are in place to prevent this. Gas safety is important. It should always be handled by professionals. Even small gaps in boiler flues can be harmful. Overall, while the regulations can be cumbersome, they exist for very good reasons to protect public health and safety. Story 14. Black ice is one of the most treacherous conditions drivers can encounter, and it's essential to understand its dangers before going on the road in icy weather. If you don't know how to drive in snow or icy conditions, my advice is simple: just don't. It's better to stay safe than to create an accident. Always remember to drive slower than usual where there has been freezing rain or snow. I grew up in the West where snowy conditions are more common, but now I live in the South, and I can't believe how many drivers here underestimate the danger of black ice. It's not just a minor inconvenience, it can be serious. I had a friend who experienced this firsthand. One day, she was driving on the freeway when she struck a patch of black ice. In an instant, her car skidded out of control and spun off the road. Thankfully, she only had minimal injuries. It's a miracle that she walked away. Many drivers assume that if they can't see any snow or ice on the road, it's safe to drive at normal speeds. That's a common misconception. Black ice can be nearly invisible, especially on dark asphalt, and you won't often see it until it's too late to react. If you find yourself driving in conditions where black ice may be present, stay calm. Fear can lead to rash decisions. Don't slam on the brakes or floor the gas pedal. Instead, gently steer your car in the direction you want to go. Abrupt movements like sudden braking or sharp turns can cause you to lose control of your vehicle. Remember, safety should always come first. It's better to arrive late than not at all. Be cautious out there and drive carefully in winter weather. Your life and the lives of others depend on it. Story 15. Substance-dependent persons that you love are some of the most threatening people you can encounter. This is not just a casual observation, it's a hard-earned truth I've come to know over the years. At 46 years old, I have experienced firsthand the devastating impact of it, and I understand better than most why I will never do substances. Throughout my life, I've had several people I love fall into the grips of bad habits. These are not just strangers, they are individuals I cared about deeply, people I trusted with my heart and soul. Out of the countless substance users I've known and loved, I can only think of one who has managed to escape the cycle of it, who isn't either gone or in prison. The statistics speak for themselves. The outcome of their habits extend beyond themselves and affect everyone around them. I have faced unimaginable situations because of the choices these individuals made. I've been hurt, and it's been by those I once cherished. There were at least 17 times in my life when I came perilously close to end because of the actions of the odd habits of the people I loved. My ex wife, whom I spent a decade with and shared a child with, became one of the most threatening people in my life. After years of love and trust, she turned against me. The woman I thought I knew, my best friend, and the most amazing person I had ever met, became a shadow of her former self once it took hold. She tried to take my daughter, my home, and even influence my own mother against me through lies. The situation escalated to the point where she managed to get me imprisoned for 3 months, trying to frame me for things I didn't do. It was a nightmare that felt like it would never end. Thankfully, the truth eventually emerged, and her deceitful emails and texts were exposed as lies, leading to my release. Unfortunately, my ex wife was intoxicated 2 years ago. While it was a loss, it also brought a sense of relief. I now have my daughter and my mother back in my life. The web of lies was finally unraveled, and the truth set me free from the chaos that had consumed my life. Reflecting on my relationship with my ex wife, I realized how deeply I loved her. She was my world. For 8 years, I would have done anything for her, even sacrificing my own life to protect hers. But the substances transformed her into someone I barely recognized. The guilt trips and emotional influence that come with loving her can be unbearable, leaving scars that last a lifetime. This experience taught me an undeniable lesson. The allure of it can change a person completely, turning them against those who care for them the most. It's a sad truth, one that I wish more people understood before they find themselves in the same perilous situation. Story 16. Bleach, maybe? I honestly am not sure what it is. Google says it's bleach, but what does that even mean, right? Is it the same stuff people dispose of in pools, or is it that weird smell that gets you when you walk into a freshly scrubbed public restroom? Who knows? Here in Israel, it goes by this adorable, almost innocent sounding name, Economica. It sounds more like a brand of kids' toys than a potent cleaning agent. Every time you see a commercial for it, there's some vaguely video mom spritzing everything in sight, grinning like she just discovered the secret to eternal happiness. She's practically dancing through her sparkling clean house, spritzing her way to domestic bliss. The whole scene is so cheerful, so inviting, so fake. Because let's be real here, no one cleans like that without being a little out of their mind. Anyway, let me tell you about my own little adventure with this so-called economica. It all started with a bathroom fungus that seemed to have taken on a life of its own. I'm not talking about a little bit of mildew in the corner. No, this thing was like a full-blown invader, a mini ecosystem that had set up camp and refused to leave. It was like an unwelcome house guest who'd not only overstayed their welcome, but also was redecorating your home in the ugliest way possible. At first, I tried to ignore it, hoping it would just go away on its own. But every time I walked into the bathroom, there it was, staring me down. It was clear that I needed to take action before this fungus declared itself an independent nation and started issuing passports. So I figured it was time to consult the all-knowing oracle, WikiHow. Because, when you're dealing with a sentient bathroom fungus, you turn to the same website that teaches you how to tie a bow tie and fold a fitted sheet. WikiHow, in its infinite wisdom, suggested that I try bathing the fungus in bleach. Sounds easy enough, right? Just douse the thing in chemicals and watch it shrivel up. The problem was, I didn't really know what bleach was, at least not in the context of economica. So naturally, I turned to Google Translate. To my surprise, it's called economica. I was like, oh, so that's what's everyone been talking about. Suddenly, the world of Israeli cleaning products opened up to me, and I felt a strange sense of empowerment. I was ready to take on this fungus with everything I had. With this newfound knowledge, I decided to experiment a bit. I started with a mix, a cup of economica and 2 cups of water. That seemed like a reasonable approach, right? Not too strong, not too weak, just enough to scare the fungus into retreat. Well, that didn't do a thing. The fungus didn't even flinch. In fact, I think it got a little bigger just to spite me. It was like, "Is that all you've got? Come on, give me your best shot." I could almost hear it laughing in my face, mocking my feeble attempt at extermination. So I thought, okay, maybe half and half will do. Nope, still nothing. And by this point, I was getting frustrated. I was tired of playing Mr. Nice Guy with his fungus. It was time to get serious. So, in a moment of desperation, I decided to go all in. 100% bleach, no water. I poured it straight from the bottle, and the smell struck me like a brick wall. It had that unmistakable scent of pool chlorine, which I'd always associated with summer fun and relaxation. not chemical warfare. But hey, I was on a mission and there was no turning back now. As I drenched the fungus in pure economica, I could feel a strange mix of satisfaction. Satisfaction because I knew this stuff was potent enough to end anything it touched. Dread because I realized I had no idea what I was really dealing with. But hey, it worked like a charm. The fungus was vanquished and gone. Victory was mine. I didn't even think to open any windows. The smell of chlorine dissipated almost instantly, so I thought I was in the clear. Boy, was I wrong. I settled in, ready to reward myself with some quality Reddit time. As I scrolled through memes and posts, I started feeling a little odd, lightheaded, but I shrugged it off. My medication can make me feel that way sometimes, so I assumed it was just business as usual. But then, as I sat there, what began as a mildly pleasant buzz slowly turned into something much more sinister. I was sitting in a gas chamber and my body was sending out urgent signals. Out of nowhere, it decided that I needed to use the bathroom, like right now. So I stood up, thinking I could make it. I barely made it a step before I felt my legs give up. It was like the world was tilted on its axis. I somehow managed to crawl toward the door, desperation fueling my movements. Thank God my door wasn't closed all the way. I stumbled outside, gasping for fresh air, feeling like I had barely survived. As I sat on the ground trying to recollect myself, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Who knew that a cleaning product can turn into such a harrowing experience? It's a miracle I'm still here to tell the tale, but let this be a lesson. Never underestimate the power of bleach or any cleaning product for that matter. The next time you see that cute commercial, just remember the real story might be a lot more chaotic than they let on. And now, every time I see those Economica commercials, I can't help but wonder what's really going on in that pristine, sparkling home. Is that mom just a little too cheerful? Or is she like me, just trying to keep her house from being overrun by some mutant fungus, putting her life on the line? I guess we'll never know, but one thing's for sure, I'm never looking at Economica the same way again. Story 17. Many people underestimate the real threat of the noise that a weapon creates. For both the user and anyone nearby, the sound the discharge can incredibly harm your hearing. Depending on the weapon and the sound dynamics of the setting in which it's used, permanent hearing damage can occur. It's a serious concern that often gets overlooked. Thanks to Hollywood's dramatization and the influence of video game culture, many people believe that it transforms a loud weapon into a barely audible pew. But this is far from the truth. While a different type of weapon is indeed quieter than its unsuppressed counterpart, it is still loud, just less so. Suppressors do not make weapons silent, they merely reduce the noise level, making it less likely that the users will suffer immediate hearing damage even without hearing protection. Unfortunately, due to widespread misconceptions surrounding different types of weapon, the laws governing their ownership are restrictive. The prevailing fear is that making it easier and more affordable to own suppressors could lead to an increase in their use during unlawful behavior. The argument suggests that if weapons were quieter, it would make them more lethal, as bystanders wouldn't know where the shots were coming from. This line of reasoning is utterly flawed, as I've already established, a suppressed weapon is not silent. Its location is still discernible through sound, especially at close range. Moreover, while a different type of weapon can be annoying and expensive to obtain, they are not impossible to acquire, nor is it difficult to construct a homemade version. If a determined individual really wanted to obtain one for wicked purposes, they could do so with relative ease, regardless of the legal barriers in place. Ultimately, the existing laws serve primarily to hinder law-abiding citizens who are simply trying to protect their hearing while enjoying sports or practicing at the range. The reality is that responsible owners prioritize safety, not just for themselves but for those around them. Understanding the true nature of weapon discharge, rather than perpetuating myths that only serve to create unnecessary fear and stigma, we should focus on promoting responsible ownership and the importance of hearing protection. In conclusion, let's shift the narrative away from the Hollywood portrayals and misunderstandings that cloud the public's perception. By doing so, we can better advocate for reasonable regulations that allow responsible individuals to safeguard their hearing while still enjoying their right to bear arms. After all, it's about finding a balance between safety and responsible ownership, not living in a world dominated by fear and misinformation. Story 18. A ceiling fan is supposed to be a blessing, bringing a cool breeze on a hot day. But I learned the hard way they can also be unsafe. Earlier this year, while on holiday, I had an unfortunate encounter with one that left me with a pretty serious injury to my left hand. It all happened so quickly. I was lounging on a couch positioned directly beneath the fan when someone asked me a question. I stood up to chat with them, stretching my arms upward in the process. That's when I felt a pain at the back of my left wrist. The moment was surreal. It felt like time slowed down as I processed what had just happened. The next thing I knew, I was on my way to the ER. After a thorough examination, I thought everything was fine. The doctor had checked my tendons and reassured me that it was just a small injury. However, it wasn't until the following day that I realized something was wrong. When I tried to extend my thumb, it wouldn't cooperate. Instead of moving normally, it sat in a hooked position, refusing to straighten out. I could still oppose it to my fingers without any concern, but I knew deep down that something was wrong. I was told to wait a week before getting my sutures removed, so I decided to hold off on mentioning my concerns until my follow-up appointment. When I finally saw the doctor again, he removed my sutures and could see that I had limited mobility in my thumb. He referred me to a specialist who conducted further evaluations. After some tests, the specialist narrowed it down to 2 possible concerns and recommended surgery. I felt a mix of anxiety and relief. At least now I had a clearer path forward. The day of the surgery was a blur. To fix it, they would have to reroute a tendon from my index finger. Apparently, that finger has a spare tendon, which was news to me. Who knew our bodies had backup plans like that? Post-surgery, I was faced with a new challenge. For 6 weeks, I was required to do hourly exercises to regain full control of my thumb. Each session was a mix of determination and frustration as I worked to regain the range of motion and strength I had taken for granted. Now, looking back on the experience, I can't help but marvel at how quickly things can change. A simple stretch to talk to a friend turned into a series of medical visits and a newfound respect for ceiling fans. So next time you find yourself lounging under one, just remember it's always wise to keep your arms and hands at a safe distance. And if you learned a thing or two from any of these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.